Human, why are you staring? The alien woman didn't understand my reaction.
Armin had always felt more comfortable under the open sky than in any crowded room.
The hum of the city, the chatter of people, and the endless interruptions of daily life never suited him. But out here, in the quiet of the remote observatory, surrounded by telescopes and blinking instruments, he felt at peace. Tonight, like many nights before, he had come alone, carrying his notebook, a few sandwiches, and his old thermos filled with lukewarm tea. He loved the solitude, the chance to lose himself in the patterns of stars, the endless expanse of darkness speckled with light. He adjusted the telescope's lens carefully, the cold metal cool against his fingers, and peered into the night sky. The stars shimmered like tiny diamonds, and for a while, he simply admired their beauty. But then a movement caught his eye, something unusual, something that didn't belong. A small, bright object streaked across the sky in a way no meteor should. It moved too slowly to be a meteor, but too fast to be a satellite. Its path was erratic, almost intelligent. Armin's heart started to race. He frowned, adjusting the telescope to get a better view. The object glowed softly, pulsing like a living thing. It descended slowly toward the forest beyond the observatory. For a moment, Armand thought it must be a drone, or perhaps a weather balloon caught in the wind. But deep down, he knew it was something else. Something that didn't belong to this world. Without thinking, he grabbed his coat and flashlight and headed toward the forest. His mind raced with excitement and fear. The rational part of him screamed to stay put, to call someone, to report it. But another part, the part that had spent his entire life gazing at the stars, urged him forward. He wanted to see it, to understand it, to be the first human to witness something extraordinary. As he walked through the underbrush, the forest was alive with the sounds of the night. Crickets chirped rhythmically, leaves rustled in the gentle breeze, and the occasional hoot of an owl punctuated the darkness. The light from his flashlight bounced off tree trunks, creating long shadows that seemed to move and sway.
He felt a thrill, a mix of fear and exhilaration, as if he were stepping into a world that few humans had ever seen.
Finally, he reached a small clearing. The sight before him made him stop in his tracks, his breath catching in his throat. In the center of the clearing, bathed in a soft glow that seemed to come from nowhere, stood a figure. At first, he thought it was a person in a strange costume, perhaps a prankster with a flare, but as he looked closer, he realized this was no human. The figure was humanoid, clearly resembling a woman in shape, but everything about her was different. Her skin shimmered subtly, changing colors, like the surface of a bubble in sunlight. Her eyes were large and luminous, reflecting the light in a way that made them seem almost otherworldly. Her hair floated slightly, as if underwater, and her movements were so graceful that they seemed to defy gravity.
She was standing perfectly still, observing him with an intensity that made his heart pound.
Armand froze. He couldn't move. He couldn't speak. He simply stared, trying to make sense of what he was seeing. The rational part of his mind screamed that this was impossible, that his brain must be playing tricks on him. But every instinct, every sense in his body, told him that this was real. Then she spoke. Her voice was soft but clear, and it echoed strangely in the clearing, almost as if it came from inside his own head.
Human, why are you staring?
The words sent a shiver down his spine. They were simple, but the tone carried curiosity and calmness, as if she genuinely didn't understand his reaction. Armand blinked, stunned, trying to respond. His throat felt dry, and no words would come. He wanted to apologize for staring, to explain himself, to ask questions 1,000 at once, but all he could do was stand there, frozen. The alien woman tilted her head slightly, her large eyes studying him. She seemed amused, or perhaps perplexed.
"Do you always stare at those who are new to your world?" she asked.
Her English was perfect, flawless, but there was something different about it. Something musical, almost otherworldly, in the way she spoke. Armand finally found his voice, though it came out shaky and uneven.
I didn't mean to.
He couldn't form a proper sentence, words tumbling over one another. He felt foolish, embarrassed, but the sight of her made it impossible to be anything else. The alien woman, Lyra, he would later learn, stepped forward. Her movements were so smooth, so fluid, that it felt like watching water flow. "It is unusual for you to stare," she said gently. "On my world, we approach new beings differently. We do not freeze, we do not stare. We observe carefully and then we introduce ourselves." Armand swallowed hard. His mind raced. She's from another planet. She's real. She's standing right here speaking English and she wants to talk to me. The realization was overwhelming. He felt like he might collapse, yet he remained standing, rooted to the spot by a mixture of fear, awe, and something deeper he couldn't quite name. Lyra's eyes seemed to study him, as if reading his thoughts. "You are curious. That is, good. Curiosity leads to understanding. But your fear is also present. Do not be afraid. I mean no harm." Armin nodded slowly, though he didn't know if she could see it. I'm Armin," he said finally. "I study the stars. I never expected D's anyone like you." His words faltered again. He gestured vaguely, unable to describe what he was feeling. Lyra's lips curved into a faint smile. "Amen, a human name. It is simple, easy to remember."
"I am Lyra."
She paused, then added, almost thoughtfully, "I am here to learn, not to harm. You must understand this. My people seek knowledge, not conquest."
Armand felt a mixture of relief and continued disbelief.
His rational mind struggled to accept what was happening, while every fiber of his being screamed that this encounter would change his life forever. He wanted to ask 100 questions. Where she came from, how she traveled to Earth, why she chose this moment. But he was still captivated by her presence, unable to focus. For several long moments they simply looked at each other. The forest around them was quiet, as if holding its breath. The stars above shone brightly, and Armand felt the weight of the universe pressing down on him in the most beautiful and terrifying way. He realized that in all his years of studying the heavens, he had never truly imagined meeting someone who came from among the stars themselves. Finally, Lyra spoke again, breaking the silence. "Human, your reaction is interesting. You observe, yet you hesitate. You are frightened, yet you are drawn to the unknown. Why is this?" Armand blinked. He didn't know how to answer. How could he explain the mixture of awe, fear, excitement, and disbelief swirling inside him? Words felt inadequate. Instead, he shook his head slowly, and she seemed to understand. "You are unlike my usual observations," Lyra said softly. "Most beings either flee or attack. You simply watch. This is why rare."
Armand felt a strange sense of pride, though he quickly suppressed it.
Rare? Me? He thought he was merely paralyzed by shock, but she interpreted it differently. As the minutes passed, the tension slowly eased. Barman's initial fear began to give way to curiosity. He took a cautious step forward, and Lyra did the same, matching his movements. It was a delicate dance of trust, a silent agreement that neither would harm the other. I want to know more, Armin said finally, his voice steadier. About you. About where you come from. About everything. Lyra's eyes seemed to glow brighter in response. Then we shall talk! I will answer what I can! You will ask, and we will share knowledge. But you must promise no sudden movements, no fear-driven actions. Trust is necessary. Armand nodded eagerly, understanding the importance of her words. He felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness, knowing that this was the beginning of something extraordinary. Something that would challenge everything he thought he knew about life, the universe, and humanity itself. For the first time in his life, standing alone in a forest clearing, under a sky filled with stars, Armand felt that he was exactly where he was meant to be. He had no idea what the next hours or days would bring, but he knew that he was witnessing the impossible, and that was more than enough to hold him spellbound. And so, under the watchful eyes of the alien woman who did not yet understand human reactions, a story began, one of curiosity, wonder, and a connection that would transcend worlds. After the initial shock of seeing Lyra fade slightly, giving her presence a quiet, almost magical glow, Armin's mind began to settle. The fear that had gripped him was slowly replaced by fascination. He realized he was no longer just staring, he was observing, learning, trying to understand her in ways he had never experienced before. The forest around them seemed to hold its breath, the usual nighttime sounds muted, as if nature itself was witnessing this extraordinary moment. Armand's voice was still cautious, but steadier than before. Lyra, you said you came to learn about humans? He asked. He wasn't sure why he felt compelled to explain, but the words tumbled out anyway. Yes, about Earth too, but mostly about people, how we think, how we feel, how we live. Lyra tilted her head thoughtfully, her luminous eyes reflecting the faint light of the stars above. Yes, she said, her voice calm, melodic, and strangely soothing. I am curious about human behaviors, your emotions, your societies. On my planet, our knowledge is vast, but we do not experience feelings as you do. We understand them, but we do not feel them in the way humans feel.
Your species.
Unique! Armand's chest tightened.
There was something strange about hearing a being from another world analyze humans as if they were an experiment.
Yet, there was no judgment in her voice, only curiosity.
He realized that fear had begun to give way to wonder. For the first time, he felt like someone, or something, truly wanted to understand him. Not to manipulate or harm him, but to know. Iman admitted running a hand through his hair. Like, really? Or looked at me, tried to understand me. Not just my work, or my research, or my mistakes, but me. Lyra's eyes softened, though in a way that still felt alien.
That is...
rare. Humans often hide themselves behind words, actions, or appearances. You reveal yourself through your curiosity. It is commendable. She paused, floating a little closer, though never moving too quickly. I find this interesting. You are cautious, yet open, and fearful, yet brave. Your contradictions, Jay, are fascinating. Armin smiled nervously. I guess that's just how humans are. We're complicated. We try to figure out the world, even when we're scared or unsure.
He looked up at the sky, then back at her. You
Seem so different. So perfect, in a way. Or maybe just not human. I don't know. Lyra's face, though alien, held an expression that resembled understanding. I am not human, she said simply.
That is true.
My appearance, my biology, my thought processes, they are all different.
But I seek knowledge, just as you do. That connects us. That is a form of similarity.
Armand considered this. He realized that, despite the obvious differences, the glow of her skin, the size of her eyes, the gentle way she moved, there was something familiar in her approach to the universe. She was curious, careful, thoughtful. She observed and listened. And she asked questions. That was something he could relate to. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The silence was comfortable, full of unspoken understanding. Then, Armand finally asked the question that had been pressing on him since the beginning. Lyra, why Earth? Why now? How did you even get here? Lyra's gaze turned upward, toward the stars, though her luminous eyes seemed to reflect more than just the night sky. My journey was long, she said. I traveled across space, seeking knowledge and understanding. Earth is a young planet, vibrant and complex, with life that is interesting to observe. Your species especially shows potential for growth and unpredictability. I have studied many worlds, but Earth is special. Armin blinked. Unpredictability, imaginative. You mean us humans? Our emotions? Our mistakes? Yes, Lyra replied. On my planet, we calculate outcomes precisely. We predict behavior based on patterns, probabilities, and observations. Humans defy predictions. You act based on feeling, intuition, instinct. Sometimes it leads to disaster. Sometimes it leads to creation. You are unpredictable, and that is intriguing. Our man laughed softly, a sound of disbelief and awe. Unpredictable, huh? I guess that's one way to describe us. Sometimes I think we don't even know ourselves, let alone each other.
He paused, looking at Lyra.
And you? You understand all this without feeling it? You can study our lives and not get confused?
Lyra's face tilted slightly, her large eyes catching the dim light.
I can understand, but not fully. Understanding is not the same as experiencing.
You experience life through emotion, instinct, curiosity, fear, all of these things. I see patterns, I calculate responses, I notice behavior, but I do not experience it the way you do. That is a limitation, yes, but also an opportunity. I can learn from observing humans in ways my people cannot. Armand felt a strange warmth in his chest. Her words were logical, but there was something sincere in them. He realized that, even though she was not human, she was trying to bridge the gap between their worlds. She wanted to understand him, and that thought filled him with awe. The night deepened, and the forest seemed to grow quieter, as if it, too, was listening. Armand began to show her some of his equipment, explaining the telescope, the instruments, and the work he did every night. Lyra listened attentively, her glowing eyes moving from one instrument to another, almost examining them, as if she could understand their inner workings without needing manuals. You observe the stars, she said finally after a long pause. Why do you do this? What drives your curiosity? Armand thought for a moment, then replied, I guess I want to understand my place in the universe. I want to know that there's more than just this little world we live in. The stars, they remind me that there's something bigger, something endless. And maybe that's why I feel connected to you.
You came from that bigger world. Myra considered his words carefully. You feel connection even across vast distances of space.
That is, interesting. Connection is not always logical. It is emotional. Humans have this ability to form bonds that defy reason. It is unique.
Armin smiled.
He had not realized how much he needed this conversation, this presence, the loneliness of his nights, the endless searching in the sky, all seemed to have a purpose now. For the first time, he was not just observing the universe, he was participating in something extraordinary. Then something moved in the corner of his vision. D, a small animal, a fox perhaps, peered out from behind the trees, watching silently. Armin realized that the forest was not merely a backdrop for this meeting. It was alive, aware in its own way. Lyra noticed it too and tilted her head slightly, curious. Do all humans live in places like this? She asked.
Quiet, separate from others? Not usually, Armand said. Most people live in cities, surrounded by noise, lights, distractions.
I choose this place because it feels honest. The stars are clearer here. Life feels simpler. Lyra studied him, her gaze gentle but unblinking. Honesty, simplicity, these are rare.
You seek truth in your observations? That is
Admirable. Most humans do not pause to reflect in this way. Our man chuckled softly. Maybe I'm a little different.
I've always been drawn to the sky. I guess that's why I didn't run when I saw you.
Lyra's eyes seemed to glow a little brighter.
You did not flee. That is important.
Many beings would react with fear or aggression. You watched, and then you approached cautiously.
That shows
Courage, or perhaps trust. It is rare. As the night wore on, they continued to talk, exchanging ideas about Earth, the stars, and life itself. Arman asked questions about her planet, her people, and her journey across the stars. Lyra answered thoughtfully, giving details without revealing anything that might harm her mission or her home. Each answer only deepened Arman's fascination. At some point, Arman realized he had not felt fear in a long time. Instead, he felt curiosity, excitement, and a growing connection to this being from another world. He was different, undeniably alien, but her presence was comforting in a way that nothing else had ever been. She was a mystery, yes, but a mystery he wanted to understand. Finally, Lyra spoke in a softer tone, almost reflective.
Human, you experience fear and curiosity together. That is understandable.
It is part of your growth, but remember, curiosity must be balanced with caution. You must protect yourself, even as you seek knowledge. Armin nodded. I understand. I'll try. Lyra tilted her head, a gesture he would later come to recognize as a sign of approval. Good. You are unlike the beings I usually encounter. This connection, this exchange, is valuable. I will remember it.
Alman felt a shiver of wonder run through him. He could not imagine anyone else experiencing this. Could not imagine anyone else knowing what he knew now.
For the first time, he felt that the universe was not just a collection of distant stars. It was a place full of possibility, of connection, and of mysteries waiting to be discovered. The night passed, and the first hints of dawn began to touch the edges of the sky. Lyra's glow dimmed slightly, as if responding to the rising sun. Armand realized that their time together was limited, and a part of him felt a pang of sadness. But he also knew that this night, this encounter, would stay with him forever. And so, in the quiet of the forest, under a sky slowly turning from black to pale blue, Armand and Lyra continued to share knowledge, understanding, and a connection that neither fully understood, but both recognized as important. The night had begun with shock and awe, but it had transformed into something deeper, a bridge between two very different worlds, built on curiosity, trust, and the unspoken promise of more discoveries to come. Days after the first encounter passed in a strange blur for Armand. Each night, he returned to the observatory, hoping to see Lyra again. He knew it was impossible, or at least he thought it was. But a part of him refused to accept that she would simply vanish from his life. He spent hours reviewing star charts, scanning the sky for any sign of her presence, feeling both anticipation and a growing anxiety he could not explain. Then, one evening, just as the sun dipped behind the distant hills, casting long shadows over the forest, Armand saw the soft shimmer of light in the clearing. His heart leapt. There she was, standing as gracefully as the first time, her luminous eyes focused on him. For a brief moment, he simply stared, almost afraid she might disappear if he moved too quickly. But she did not move, did not fade. She was real. "Human," Lyra said, her voice calm yet carrying a hint of concern. "You came alone again."
Armand nodded, feeling a mixture of pride and guilt. I
can't stop myself. I need to see you, to understand. I've never met anyone like you, Lyra. I can't just leave it." Lyra's head tilted, her hair floating slightly as if in water. I understand your need for knowledge, for connection. But there are risks you do not yet perceive. Armand frowned. Risks? He scanned the edges of the forest. Nothing seemed unusual, but the mention of danger made his stomach tighten. What kind of risks? Lyra's eyes turned distant, reflecting the fading light of the sun. Your world is not aware of me. That is fortunate. But there are humans who watch, who monitor, who might see what should not be seen. My presence could create chaos if discovered. And you could be endangered simply by being near me. Armand swallowed hard. Fear clawed at his chest, stronger than anything he had felt before. He had never imagined that the simple act of meeting her could put him at risk.
I didn't think about that. I didn't care. I just wanted to know you. Lyra stepped closer, her movement graceful and deliberate. Curiosity is valuable, human.
But caution is necessary. Knowledge without wisdom is dangerous. Armand nodded slowly, realizing the truth of her words. He had been so consumed by fascination that he had overlooked the potential consequences. I'll be careful, he said quietly. I promise. The forest was quiet around them, but Armand could sense a subtle tension in the air. He had the feeling that someone, or something, was watching. Shadows seemed to move just beyond the reach of his flashlight. His pulse quickened, and he realized that Lyra's warning was not just theoretical. Danger was real, and it could come at any moment. As if sensing his unease, Lyra spoke gently. Do not fear unnecessarily, but be aware. Humans often act unpredictably when they encounter the unknown. That unpredictability could be harmful. Armand nodded again, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. He knew that he could not simply enjoy the encounter without thinking of the consequences. He had to protect her, even if he did not fully understand why she needed protection.
Tell me about your planet, Armin said, trying to shift the conversation away from fear.
Tell me what it's like, what you study, what your people do. Lyra's eyes glowed softly. My planet is far from here, in a system you call distant. We are advanced, yes, but our focus is knowledge, understanding, and harmony. We observe life, study ecosystems, and seek to comprehend the universe's laws. But we do not experience emotions as humans do. We calculate, we predict, we analyze. That is how we survive. Arman listened, captivated. So, you don't feel fear, joy, sadness? Lyra's gaze softened.
We experience our own forms of awareness, but they are different.
We can simulate emotions for understanding, but we do not feel them the way humans do. That is why I am here, to observe and learn. To understand beings who experience the world through feeling as well as thought. Arman nodded slowly, absorbing the enormity of what she was saying, and she was so different, yet she had come to Earth to understand him and his people. That thought filled him with a mixture of awe and a strange protective affection. Suddenly, a rustling sound came from the edge of the clearing. Arman's head snapped toward it, his senses suddenly alert. Drone, barely visible through the shadows, hovered in the air, its red light blinking. Someone, or something, had noticed the shimmer of Lyra's landing. "Arman," Lyra said softly, almost urgently. "They are here." "You must act cautiously." Arman's mind raced. He had no weapons, no way to hide her completely, but he knew he could not let anyone approach the clearing while she was there. He grabbed a flashlight and shone it briefly toward the drone, hoping to distract it, but it hovered stubbornly, its sensors scanning. Lyra's movements became fluid, almost faster than his eyes could follow. She gestured, and a faint energy field surrounded her, subtle but enough to bend light and obscure her presence. Arman blinked in astonishment. You can do that?" "Yes," Lyra said calmly. "But I will not harm them, I only conceal myself. Do not panic. Follow my instructions carefully." Arman's pulse raced as he realized the danger was real. "What do I do? Stay close to me." "Move slowly. Do not draw attention. Trust me." They moved together through the clearing, Lyra guiding him with gentle gestures. The drone followed them for a moment, then seemed to lose track of their location. Arman felt his heart pounding, a mixture of fear, adrenaline, and awe. He realized that Lyra was not only extraordinary in appearance and intelligence, but also in her ability to handle dangerous situations with calm precision. After several tense minutes, they reached a safer part of the forest, where the trees were thick and shadows deep. Arman finally allowed himself to breathe fully.
That was incredible, he whispered.
Lyra's eyes glowed softly, but she did not smile. "It is necessary. You must understand, human, that curiosity and caution must coexist. If you ignore one for the other, disaster may follow." Arman nodded, humbled by the situation. "I understand. But I just want to help you, to keep you safe." Lyra regarded him silently for a moment. "Your intent is admirable, but your actions must match it. Awareness, caution, and patience. These are the qualities you must develop to protect those you care about." The night stretched on, and Arman and Lyra continued their cautious exploration of the forest. She showed him subtle ways to move without leaving traces, how to observe without being noticed, and how to anticipate potential threats. Armin absorbed everything eagerly, realizing that this knowledge was not just for the present. It was a skill he might need for a lifetime. At one point, Armin dared to ask, "Lyra, can you stay on Earth for a while?"
"Not just for a few nights?" Lyra's expression was calm, but there was a trace of sadness in her luminous eyes. "My presence here is limited.
My mission has constraints. I must observe, learn, and then return to my people."
Earth is not yet ready for prolonged contact. Armin felt the pang of disappointment, but he tried not to show it.
I understand. I wish it could be different. Lyra's gaze softened. I will remember you, human. And perhaps in time there will be further opportunities. But for now, we must act with care. Your safety and mine depends on it.
They found a small clearing near a stream where the water reflected the moonlight and the stars. Lyra knelt briefly, placing her hands in the water, creating faint ripples that shimmered with a strange light.
Observe, she said softly. Even in danger there is beauty. Even in uncertainty there is learning. Armin watched, captivated. The ripples moved with a gentle, luminous glow, almost as if the water itself was alive. He realized that every moment with her was a lesson, not just about the universe, but about awareness, observation, and the delicate balance between curiosity and caution. Hours passed, and the tension gradually eased. The forest returned to its normal nocturnal rhythm, though Armin remained hyper-aware of every sound, every movement. He knew the drone, or other observers, could return at any moment. But he also knew that Lyra's presence made him feel alive in a way he had never felt before, alert, aware, and connected to something far greater than himself. Finally, Lyra spoke, her voice gentle. You have done well tonight, human. You have observed, followed instructions, and acted with care. These qualities, they will serve you well. Remember them.
Armin nodded, feeling a deep sense of pride mixed with exhaustion.
Thank you, Lyra. I will remember. I won't forget tonight. Lyra's luminous eyes met his.
Nor will I.
Significant. And though danger exists, so does the potential for understanding. That is the essence of life. As dawn began to approach, the forest bathed in a soft silver light. Armin realized that his life had changed irreversibly. He had faced fear, learned to act with caution, and seen a being from beyond the stars. And through it all, he had begun to understand the importance of trust, connection, and awareness. Lyra's glow dimmed slightly as she prepared to leave the clearing. Human, we will meet again. But for now, remain vigilant. Knowledge is valuable, but safety is paramount. Armin watched her vanish into the shadows of the forest, leaving behind only a faint shimmer in the air. He felt a mixture of relief, wonder, and a quiet resolve. He knew that danger existed, but he also knew that he had grown stronger, more aware, and more connected to the universe than ever before. And so, as the first rays of sunlight touched the treetops, Armin stood alone in the forest, filled with anticipation, caution, and a growing bond with the alien woman who had changed his life forever.
The days after Lyra's departure from the forest were some of the longest Armin had ever experienced.
Every morning he woke with the faint hope that he might see her again, and every night he scanned the skies with the telescope, searching for that soft shimmer of light that had first drawn his attention. The stars felt different now, brighter and closer, as if they were connected to something far beyond human understanding. He could not shake the memory of her luminous eyes, the calm in her voice, and the way she had moved through the forest with such grace and certainty.
Ermin had tried to resume his normal life, but it was impossible.
Conversations with friends and colleagues felt hollow. Daily routines, the endless chores of life, no longer seemed as important. His mind was consumed with thoughts of Lyra, the universe, and the fragile connection that had formed between them. He realized that meeting her had changed him profoundly. He no longer saw the world as a predictable, safe place. He saw it as vast, mysterious, and full of possibilities. Then, one quiet evening, he received a message he had not expected, though it was not a message in any conventional sense. A faint shimmer appeared in the clearing near the observatory, the soft glow of light bending through the trees in a way he immediately recognized. His heart raced. Lyra had returned. She stepped forward slowly, her movements as fluid and mesmerizing as before. Armand's breath caught in his throat. Lyra, he whispered, almost afraid to speak too loudly. You have remained vigilant, human, Lyra said softly, her voice carrying the same calm authority as always. I see that you have observed and waited as I expected. Armand nodded, feeling a rush of both relief and excitement. I couldn't stop thinking about you, about what you taught me, about what I learned, about myself. I had to see you again. Lyra's luminous eyes seemed to reflect understanding, almost warmth.
Your intent is sincere, human. That is important.
But remember, our time together remains limited. You must understand that there are constraints beyond your control. Armand's chest tightened. He had feared this moment, the reminder that Lyra could not stay. I understand, he said quietly, but I wanted to know that you would come back, even for a short while. Lyra moved closer, though she maintained a careful distance.
I will return as my mission allows, but you must remember, our connection is built on understanding, trust, and respect for boundaries.
You cannot expect me to stay indefinitely. That is...
Not possible. Armand nodded again, though a part of him ached at the thought. He knew she was right. Her presence was extraordinary, and yet temporary. It was a reminder that not all wonders could be held forever, and that part of learning was appreciating what was given in the moment. Tonight, Lyra said, her voice gentle, we will speak of your world, your people, and what you have learned. It is the final stage of our encounter for now. Listen carefully, human, for these lessons will guide you even when I am absent. They walked together to the clearing by the stream, the water reflecting the soft light of the moon. Armand felt a strange calm, as if the tension and fear of previous nights had been replaced with quiet acceptance. He realized that he had grown in ways he could not fully describe. He was more aware, more attentive, and more connected to the world, to life, and to the mysterious presence before him.
Humans, Lyra began, her voice carrying an almost musical tone, possess great potential.
Your capacity for curiosity, creativity, and emotion is rare. You are capable of remarkable achievements, but you are also fragile. You must learn to balance your desires, your actions, and your awareness of the consequences.
This is a lesson not all humans grasp. Armand listened intently, feeling both humbled and inspired.
I want to understand. I want to be better. Not just for myself, but for others too. I feel changed since meeting you. Lyra's glowing eyes reflected approval. Change is essential. Growth is the foundation of survival, understanding, and wisdom. Humans often resist change, fearing uncertainty. But you have embraced it. That is commendable, Armand smiled softly. I didn't know that's what I was doing. I felt like I had to act, to be aware, to understand. You taught me that. Lyra's expression softened, though it still carried an alien serenity.
Observation is only the first step.
Awareness is necessary, but action, guided by wisdom, that is what transforms knowledge into understanding. Remember this, human. Your choices define not only your path, but the impact you have on others. Armand felt a weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders, but it was not burdensome. It was empowering. He realized that this encounter was not just about wonder or curiosity. It was a chance to grow, to learn, and to become someone who could act with purpose in a world full of uncertainty. Lyra, before you leave, Armand said hesitantly, can you leave me something? A reminder, a token, anything that will help me remember this night. Lyra regarded him for a long moment, then reached into a small pouch at her side. She produced a tiny crystal, faintly glowing with an inner light. She held it out to him. This is not just a token, human. It is a symbol of knowledge, awareness, and connection.
Keep it with you. Let it remind you of what you have learned and the responsibility you carry.
And now, our encounter is not the end. It is a beginning. Armand accepted the crystal with trembling hands. He felt a warmth emanate from it, subtle, but unmistakable. Thank you, he whispered. I
will treasure it. I will never forget you, or what you taught me.
Lyra's gaze lingered on him, her eyes shimmering with a strange, quiet emotion. Nor will I forget you, human. Remember this. The universe is vast, and your place within it is important. Cherish curiosity, practice caution, and embrace growth. These lessons will guide you even in my absence. Armand nodded, feeling a mixture of awe, sadness, and determination. He knew that this would be the last time he saw her for a long while, if ever, and yet he also understood that the encounter had changed him irrevocably. He was no longer the same person who had wandered into the forest months ago. He was more aware, more thoughtful, and more connected to the mysteries of the universe. Lyra stepped back, her body beginning to shimmer with a soft, ethereal glow. Farewell, human.
Until we meet again! Armand watched as she rose slightly above the ground, her movements fluid and mesmerizing.
In a moment, she was gone, vanishing into the night sky with a trail of faint light, leaving Armand alone in the clearing, holding the crystal in his hands. He stood there for a long time, listening to the sounds of the forest, feeling the weight and significance of what had just occurred. He realized that even though Lyra had left, her lessons, her presence, and the connection they had formed would remain with him forever. The universe suddenly felt larger, more alive, and full of possibilities. Days turned into weeks, and Armand continued his observations at the observatory. He noticed subtle changes in himself. He was more patient, more aware of the world around him. He observed people with empathy, trying to understand their emotions, motivations, and fears. He approached his work with renewed curiosity and care, seeing patterns and connections he had never noticed before. He often held the crystal in his hand, feeling its warmth and faint glow, a reminder of Lyra's guidance. It became a symbol of his journey, the connection he had made with a being from beyond the stars, and the responsibility he now carried to act with wisdom and awareness. One evening, as he looked through the telescope scanning the night sky, he thought he saw a faint shimmer in the distance. His heart leapt, but he reminded himself that it might be a star, a satellite, or merely a trick of the light. Still, he felt a quiet hope, a belief that the universe was full of wonders yet to be discovered, and that perhaps one day he would see Lyra again, he realized that life had changed forever. The encounter had taught him that curiosity, courage, and awareness were powerful tools, and that connection, whether with other humans or beings from distant worlds, was a force that could transform understanding and perspective. He had faced fear, embraced the unknown, and come away wiser and more attuned to the vast universe surrounding him. And though Lyra had departed, Armand felt her presence in the quiet moments, in the shimmer of the stars, in the gentle rustle of leaves, and in the soft glow of the crystal she had left him. Her lessons would guide him, inspire him, and remind him that the universe was full of mysteries waiting to be understood, and that even a single encounter could change the course of a life forever.
In the stillness of the night, with the stars above and the crystal in his hand, Armand smiled softly.
He had been forever changed by a being from another world. He had learned the delicate balance between curiosity and caution, between observation and action, between knowledge and wisdom. And he knew, deep within himself, that this was only the beginning of a journey that would continue as long as he dared to look beyond the stars. The forest around him was quiet, peaceful, and alive. And in that moment, Armand felt a profound connection, not only to Lyra, but to the universe itself. A connection that would never fade, a memory that would never dim, and a lesson that would remain with him for the rest of his life.